Shaun here from Shaun Stevenson Books, the author of the Throne series, and I am super excited because today I want to share with you some Christian YA and middle grade books for people who love a good spooky story. So I've got a few different series here, a couple different standalones. All of these are published by Christian publishers, or a couple of them are independently published by a Christian author, and all of them fit the bill for something that's a little bit on the scary side. So a lot of these are a lot of fun, and I'm excited to share them with you. So the first series I want to tell you about is Spine Chillers. Spine Chillers is a series of 12 books written by Fred E. Katz, Fred E. Katz, and these books are kind of like a Goosebumps sort of rip-off series in a way. They were all written in the 90s, and they re-released 3 of them in this one book altogether. This one has book number 1, Dr. Shiver's Carnival, book number 2, Attack of the Killer House, and then book number 7, Birthday Cake and Ice Cream, not ice cream. So this one is a great one. These are all super quick reads. They're a lot of fun. Like I said, they're kind of like a Goosebumpsy kind of feel. So each story has like a big premise, and then there's different characters every time that go through whatever is happening. So in Dr. Shiver's Carnival, the main kids are in a carnival that seems to have some kind of spooky stuff going on, and they got to figure out what's happening. Then you have Attack of the Killer House, where some kids think that their house is trying to get them. And finally, in Birthday Cake and Ice Cream, that is the one that is, I think, the creepiest out of all the Spine Chillers books that I've read so far. Birthday Cake and Ice Cream actually has a twist ending that is legit creepy. Some of the other books in the series have a twist, but it almost ends up being that no one was ever really in much danger at all. But in book number 7, Birthday Cake and Ice Cream, there is a legit creepy twist that I thought definitely deserved a spine chill. So that is the first 3 books, and first 2 books, I guess, of book number 7. And then we have book number 3, The Venom versus Me. And this one is about some kids who are out in the woods, and they find out that there might be a feathered serpent there somewhere in the woods. And is it real? Is it out to get them? They have to find out. Then the 4th book in the series is Pizza with Extra Creeps. Now this book I actually just finished reading, and it had some good moments in it. There were a couple of moments that I thought, oh, that's a really good setup, or that's a really good atmosphere that the author has set out here. In one part in this book, it kind of turns into a little bit of a runaround story where the characters are running around through the same locations over and over, and the same things keep happening to them. I will admit, I did guess what was going on in this book pretty much from the beginning, but there was an interesting side tangent halfway through the book where the main characters go to a graveyard, and that whole scene was great. I loved it a lot. So this is Pizza with Extra Creeps. Then we have book number 5 in the series, The Phantom of Phys Ed. Now this one I actually haven't read, but my brother has read it, and he said that the twist was, again, not very putting the characters in much danger, I guess you could say. But that is book number 5, The Phantom of Phys Ed. Then we have book number 6. Now this one is actually a Christmas story. It's called Not a Creature Was Stirring, where the main character goes to his Aunt Bergen's house. So if you know what's going on there, you know. He goes to his Aunt Bergen's house, and some mysterious things are going on while he's there. So you have to find out what happens in this one. It's a Christmassy, spooky story. Then, in book number 8, we have Stay Away from the Swamp. Now this one has the older cover on it. You can kind of see the difference there between the 2 different covers. They kind of changed them around for the second printing. This is the newer cover over here, older cover over here. But this one is Stay Away from the Swamp, and I haven't read this one yet, so I'm excited to see what happens in that one. And then book number 9, I'm excited to read this one. It's called Tuck Me In, Mummy. And this one, the main characters go to a museum where they're staying the night while a King Tut exhibit is there, and of course, some mummy stuff starts to happen. So they have to find out what's going on. Then in book number 10, we have Stay Tuned for Terror. I haven't read this one either, so this one seems like it's a little bit of a vampire type story, so we'll see what happens there. And then book number 11 is Hospitals Make Me Sick. And in this one, the main kids are in the hospital, only it seems like instead of making them better, the hospital's making things worse. Then the last book of the series is called A Haunted Mine is a Terrible Thing to Waste. I haven't read this one yet either, but this one, apparently there's a madman loose in the mines, it's after them, so they have to find out what's going on. So that is the Spine Chillers series by Freddie Katz. Definitely worth it if you're into 90s kind of fiction for middle grade students. This is a great pickup for Christian middle grade stories with a spooky twist. So that is the Spine Chiller series. Kind of in a similar vein, there's another series that came out in the 90s called Heebie-Jeebies. Now, I actually didn't know that this series existed until just recently. I saw one at our local used bookstore and I thought, what is that series? I need to look that up for later. And so this series was put out by Broadman and Holman and is written by Paul Buchanan and Rod Randall. And they kind of take turns writing the different books in the series. So this is the first one, The Rat That Ate Poodles. And already you can kind of notice that the covers on this Heebie-Jeebies series, they're a little creepy looking. Like, I remember looking at these and thinking, ooh, I am very surprised that was in a Christian bookstore at one time. I used to work in a Christian bookstore, and so I saw a lot of book covers, and there is very rarely a book cover that would look like this that would be on the shelves of a Christian bookstore. But this is The Rat That Ate Poodles. Now, I will say, unlike in Spine Chillers, where there's never really anything dangerous that's happening, in Heebie-Jeebies, there is legit danger that's going on for the main characters. So I read this one and the second one so far, and in this book, the main character accidentally breaks a chemistry set while cleaning out the garage, and a rat starts to eat the chemicals that have all combined to form some kind of green goo, and now the main character thinks that that rat is growing and starting to eat the neighborhood dogs as they go missing throughout their neighborhood. So this is a great book. It had a twist that I thought was interesting, and it wasn't exactly what I saw coming, but I could see how they got there pretty easily. But the other thing about this series that I find fascinating is the way that they tie in Bible stories to each book. So in this first one, there's a really interesting Bible story about Cain that's tied in to what's happening to the main character. And there's this secret the main character is trying to keep from everyone, the rat, just like Cain was trying to keep a secret of killing his brother Abel. So they tie that in really well, I feel like, as they explore the story of Cain and Abel and the rat that ate poodles. So and then book number 2, I also read this one, and this is Welcome to Camp Creeps. Now this book, I will say, there was some good danger throughout this one and some good suspense. The main characters are camping in the woods with their mom and dad, and they're going hiking when they find an abandoned camp. And there are some really creepy settings in this one where they're just walking through this old camp that no one's at anymore, that's just been abandoned, and there is something sinister happening that they have to figure out what's going on, and their dad might know all about it all along. So this one had a great mystery. I thought it was a lot of fun. Then the rest of these books I haven't read yet, but book number 3 is The Mysterious Treasure of the Slimy Sea Cave. Book number 4, I think, has one of the creepiest covers of the series. It's Uncle from Another Planet. This one looks really interesting. Looks like it could be about aliens, possibly, so we'll have to see what happens there. And then book number 5 is the obligatory I Scream joke with the I Scream truck. So this one, another ice cream related story. Then in book number 6 now, book number 6, we have The Wild Ride on Bigfoot Mountain. And I'm really excited to read this one because ever since I read Frank Peretti's Monster, which was about kind of the Bigfoot legend, I've really loved stories about Bigfoot, and so I'm excited to see what happens in this one. And then number 7, I don't do spiders, I don't like them, I think they're really creepy, And this one is Along Came a Spider, book number 7 in the Heebie-Jeebies series. I think I will get heebie-jeebies probably when I read this one, as it is about spiders. Then we have book number 8, Dances with Werewolves. This is another cover I couldn't believe when I saw it. That is just such a creepy looking hand claw thing there on the front of the cover. So I just thought, wow, I'm surprised that was in a Christian bookstore at one time. And then book number 9 is Piranha Picnic, which I'm interested to see what happens in this one. I think piranhas are kind of an interesting animal, so what's going on with the Piranha Picnic? We'll have to find out. And then book number 10, the last book in the series, is Return to Terror Cove, with some fish-looking people on the cover. So that is the Heebie-Jeebies series, and I am loving these so far. The first 2 were so great, and I can't wait to read the rest of them. Now, the next series I want to tell you about is a series that started off under one name and then it was re-released under another. So if you're looking for it, definitely check both names to see if you can find it. The original title of the series was The Caden Chronicles, and this is book number 1, Dead Man's Hand. Each one of the books in this series kind of have like a different monster of some kind that the main character's investigating, trying to find out what's going on. And in this one, they go to like an old west town and there seems to be some kind of a ghost that's going around the ranch and they have to figure out what's happening. So that is Dead Man's Hand by Eddie Jones. Book number 2 is where I have the different title for the series, and they retitled it Monster Mysteries. They were originally published by Zondervan, and then Eddie Jones took them independent, and so now he independently publishes each book in the series. And book number 2 is Skull Creek Stakeout in the Monster Mystery series. And this one is probably my favorite of the 4 that I've read so far. There's 2 more in the series that I haven't read yet, but this one was so far my favorite out of all 4. Then book number 3 is Dead Low Tide, and this one's about zombies in the bayou. So it had a really great atmosphere. It was a lot of fun, a good mystery that's going on that the main character is trying to solve in Dead Low Tide. And then book number 4 is Rumor of a Werewolf. Now this one I didn't love as much out of all 4 of them. It was still fun and I enjoyed it, but there were a couple moments where I didn't quite understand what was going on in the storyline, so I got a little bit lost and had to kind of reread to try and figure out where I was, but it was still a fun time. Rumor of a Werewolf. That was a lot of fun to read. So that is the Caden Chronicles / Monster Mystery series by Eddie Jones. Definitely worth it if you're into monsters, like the Universal Classic monsters, plus a good mystery. Those are for you. The next things I want to show you are a couple of standalone books and then the beginning of a series. So the standalone book I want to share with you is Wasted Wood by Brock Eastman. This is a short little story that he released independently, and this one, it's a lot of fun. It's about a boy who takes the wrong turn, and then he has to figure out where he is and how to get home, and he ends up in the Wasted Wood. This one's a lot of fun. It's a really quick, easy read, and the main characters are fun and great, and they have just a lot of good banter throughout the story between the different characters. So that is Wasted Wood by Brock Eastman. Then Brock also has a series called The Sages of Darkness, and the first book in the series is Howl Sage. Now this is the only book in the series released so far. There's 2 more books in the series that Brock's been working on, Blizzard Sage and Crimson Sage, but this first book is all about a werewolf who is actually a demon. And in this story, they're actually spiritual warfare hunters, so to speak, and the main character is part of this family that's been part of this organization that hunts demons and tracks them down, and there's all these different classifications for different kinds of demons in the story. So it's a lot of fun. It's really a fast-moving story that takes you through this really interesting town that's kind of nestled up in the mountains, and the main character is going to school but also trying to figure out what's going on in town as this werewolf is attacking. So that is Howl Sage by Brock Eastman. The next series I want to share with you is a series that I like it. I like book 1, I guess. Book 2 is not as much my favorite, and it ended after book 2, but that is The Veritas Project by Frank Peretti. Now this series, it's really good. They're both well written, fast paced, they move along quickly, they have good mysteries, especially book number 1, The Hangman's Curse. This one's mystery is top notch. And what happens in the end, you will never see coming. The plot twists are great. It is a lot of fun to read. It's about a family who goes undercover trying to solve mysteries. And so this family, they have gone undercover at a school where people are dying by maybe the ghost of Abel Fry. Or is it a ghost? That's what they're going to try and find out. They also made a movie of this book, and the movie was fine. I prefer the book personally, but you know, the book is always a little better in my opinion. So that is The Hangman's Curse by Frank Peretti. Definitely can't go wrong reading this one. Now, you might, after reading book 1, think, I have to read book 2, but I will admit, book 2, Nightmare Academy, was actually not my favorite. I didn't love it as much. I felt like the payoffs were a little weaker, and also the storyline ends in a place where I was wondering, wait, what are you going to do with that? Is there more to this story? It feels like that's a bigger universe you're setting up, but I don't know what's going to happen there. And the series never continued. So the series ended here after book number 2, Nightmare Academy. So if you read book 1, you might really want to read book 2. It's still a fun, spooky story that has a good mystery and a fairly good twist, but it just doesn't live up to book 1 in my personal opinion. I have another series here I want to share with you that is one of my favorites. I read these books so fast, I could not stop reading them, and that is Robert Liparulo's Dream House King series. Book number 1 is called House of Dark Shadows, and I would tell you what genres this book fits in. Well, all of the books in the series fit in, but one of them would be a spoiler. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what genre they are, but they are suspenseful. There is a lot of scary moments in them. There's a lot of intense moments where the characters, you are wondering, will they make it out of this? I do not know. Robert Liparulo has a lot of adult fiction where he writes very suspenseful stories. And so you know, if you've read any of those, that it is not always guaranteed that your characters are going to make it. So in House of Dark Shadows, book number 1, it sets up this mystery as this family moves into this house that is old and decrepit, and there is something weird in the attic. And so they're trying to figure out what's happening when, well, something terrible happens, and I'm not going to tell you what. You will have to read this series to find out. Book number 2 is called Watcher in the Woods, and really sets things off and gets things going, and it's so good, fast-paced. Then Gatekeepers kind of turns the whole series on its head, and what you thought you were reading, it changes it up a lot. And then book number 4 is called Timescape, and this one, again, just so exciting. You can't stop reading it. It is a literal page-turner. Book number 5 is called Whirlwind, and then book number 6 is called Frenzy. And I will admit, this book is a frenzy. I read it so fast, I could not wait to find out what happens. And this is a series that answers all your questions. Every question you have during the rest of the books where you're wondering, wait, are you actually going to explain that? Where did that person come from? What's going on over there? Will you actually solve all this in a satisfying way? Robert Liparulo does. It ties it all up really well while also leaving a few threads loose and to the wind for something later that Robert Liparulo could do. I am still waiting for him to write another series in this world. I would love to read that. I would buy it in a heartbeat. So, Robert Liparulo, if you're listening to this, write another one, please. I have one of my favorite book series to share with you. I have read these books more times than I probably read any other book, and that is the Forbidden Doors series by Bill Myers. These books, they're real short, they're really quick reads, but they are so much fun to read. They were originally put out in the 90s, the original 10 books, and then they were re-released in the 2000s, where Bill Myers actually added 2 books to the series. And they are each one set in this town where this brother and sister, Scott and Becca, they have just moved there with their mom. Their dad has been missing, maybe dead, they're not sure. And they find out that there are some creepy things going on in this town that they are in. And in book number 1, The Society, they find out there's this group at school that's been using Ouija boards and amulets and charms, and they are wondering what is going on with this, because in their world, that is an open door to the demonic. And so there's a spiritual warfare component to these books that is a lot of fun. They are definitely creepy. They have that kind of 90s vibe, of like the Fear Street R.L. Stine look on them, which I really love the old covers for. I don't have all of the original 10 in the old covers, but I have all of them in the new covers. So that's book number 1, The Society. Book number 2 is called The Deceived, and this one's all about hypnosis and kind of like past lives and what's real, what's true. Then book number 3 is called The Spell. I don't have this one in the old covers. These are the newer covers from the 2000s, but this one's all about witchcraft and a spell, and they're wondering, can a spell have power over them, or is God more powerful? And then in book number 4, it's called The Haunting, where they're in what they think is a haunted house. Book number 5 is real fascinating. This one is called The Guardian, and it's all about guardian angels and kind of exploring that idea of guardian angels, as well as what would a counterfeit guardian angel look like. You have to read to find out. Then book number 6, back to the old covers, is called The Encounter. This one's about aliens. Then book number 7 is called The Curse. This one is about voodoo. Book number 8 is called The Undead. This one's a vampire type story where it seems like there's a vampire, and so they have to figure out what's happening. I will admit, this, in my opinion, is where the series takes a slight downhill turn. Not bad, but it just changes a tiny bit, in my opinion. Not as good as the first 7 books in the series. Book number 9 is called The Scream. This one is about a rock and roll band that seems to have taken some things too far. I didn't really love this one. It's the weakest of the entire series in my opinion, but if you're reading the rest of them and you want to be a completionist, here's book number 9, The Scream. Then book number 10 is called The Ancients, and this is the original ending to the first iteration of the series before Bill Myers put out the 2 more books in the 2000s. And this one, it ends a little bit on a whimper, in my opinion. It's still good, and I think it's a great read, and it fits the rest of the series tone and everything, but it just ends not quite as strong as what I would have hoped. So that is book number 10, The Ancients. Then, into the 2000s, Bill Myers came back and wrote 2 more books. I was so excited because I had found the original 10, read them, and then I saw that he was releasing some more of them, re-releasing the old ones in the new covers, and I was so excited to read these. So this is book number 11, The Wiccan, and then book number 12, The Cards. And this one was really interesting because it talks a lot about like destiny and kind of like God's sovereignty, but also thinking about tarot cards and is there anyone else who can read the future and know what the future is. So this was a really interesting exploration of what is our life and how does it play out and how does God have a role in that. So this is number 12, The Cards. So that is the Forbidden Doors series. Love these books. Definitely worth a read if you like a good spooky story. The last series I want to tell you about is probably the one that's for the highest level of YA that I would say. Definitely not for middle grade readers or younger YA readers, and that's because it deals with a lot of heavy themes like suicide and grief, and that is The Solitary Tales by Travis Thrasher. And you can tell this book is well worn because I have let many people borrow this book. because I loved it. I read it so fast, and then I let a lot of people borrow it because I wanted others to read the story. It's all about a guy named Chris Buckley who moves to this town and quickly finds out that there's some real creepy stuff going on in the town. And this book, I will admit, I could not sleep. After I read this book, I had to keep the lights on because it definitely has a really creepy scene in it that definitely stuck with me. So that is the Solitary Tales, book number 1, Solitary. And then book number 2 continues the story with Gravestone. And then book number 3 is called Temptation. Now, Temptation, I will admit, takes a little bit of a turn from where the first 2 books are, and you kind of have to, in my opinion, power through a little bit the first part of this before the series gets back on track. Now, I'm actually missing my copy of book 4. I don't know where it is. I looked for it. I couldn't find it. It is called Hurt, and that one wraps up this series so well. It is so well done. Travis Thrasher, in my opinion, is a master of suspense and that creepy vibe that you want in a good spooky story that still has hope in it. So that is all of my picks for if you love Christian YA and middle grade fiction, but you want something a little spooky or a little scary, but something with hope in it. These are the books that I would highly suggest you check out. Well, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Shaun Stevenson Books, and let me know in the comments below. Have you read any of these books before? Are there any series that I missed that I don't know about? Because if they're not here, I probably don't know about them. So please tell me. I would love to read them. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.